Good evening to one and all. Welcome you all to the daily Indian Express newspaper analysis for the date 12th September 2023, brought to you by Ganesh IAS Academy. Okay, let's get into the today's newspaper analysis. So these are the articles which we are going to look into in the today's session. Have a look at it. Okay, let's get into the today's newspaper analysis. Center plans to open TRAI Chairperson's post to private sector. Okay. Right now, central government is considering an option to open the TRAI's, that is Telecom Regulatory Authority of India's chairperson post to the private player. So they have decided, they are considering that those who are member of the board in the private organization, as well as you should have 30 years of experience in the corporate industry. So those persons will be considered for the TRAI's chairperson. And right now the decision is in consideration only. To make this, if they are going to get the decision is finally approved, means there will be a change in the amendment of TRAI Act 1997. So this is what the news is about. How the news is being related to examination is, under prelims, the news is being related to Indian polity, governance, constitution, political system, panchayat raj, public policy, rights issues, etc. Under mains, it is related to GS paper 2 under statutory, regulatory and various quasi-judicial bodies. So these are all the important these are all the syllabus to which the today's this news has been linked. Okay. Let's discuss about the TRAI. After 1991, when India opened up its economy, there has been increased private participation in all these sectors, especially in telecom sectors. So to regulate those newcomers or those new private players, this Telecom Regulatory Authority of India was created during 1997 under TRAI Act. So the body is statutory body, and the main objective is of the TRAI is to ensure that the competition between the players is fair as well as equitable, so that the telecom related market will be growing organically and there won't be any kind of monopolization and then the related domination in the market. These are all the things being supervised by TRAI. And at 2000, during 2000, an amendment was made in TRAI Act 1997. In that, telecommunication dispute settlement and appellate tribunal was created. This tribunal is the quasi-judicial body which hears the appeal from the TRAI, Regulatory Authority of India. So this is what the news is related to. Then if the dispute appellate tribunal will hear cases between consumers as well as service providers, or the dispute between service providers, or the dispute between licensees as well as the license provider. So this is what the details relation to the TRAI is about. Okay, let's look into the characteristics of the regulatory authority. First is, it is isolated from the main executive department, so that the independence in terms of its function is maintained. So second is, it regulates the conduct of every telecommunication body, most importantly public as well as private players. And then the decision making in the TRAI will be in the form of collegial type of decisions. So the decision will be taken by consensus of the board members, not by any one person, individual. And then it has mixed functions, like it has the ability to administer, it has the ability to act as quasi legislature, and also it is the quasi judicial body. So these kind of differential function have been performed by TRAI. See, it has the power to frame rules as well as regulations. So in this form it is acting as quasi legislature, and it will be implementing those rules and regulation. So in this capacity it will be acting as administrative bodies, and it will be hearing the disputes. So in this form or in this capacity it will be acting as quasi judicial bodies. And then the fund for the TRAI will be coming from consolidated funds of India. So we could able to see that only with the approval of the parliament only the funds will be sanctioned for TRAI, and there won't be any authority of the executive is there. So if the parliament is approving only, the fund will be going towards the TRAI. So we could able to see that the fund is the power sanctioning, the fund sanctioning authority is taken away from the political executives, so that the financial independence could be maintained. So this is what the characteristics of the TRAI is about. And then what is the advantage of this regulatory body is that it has separate quasi judicial from the political executives. As a result of which the concentration of power does not takes place. So the judicial decisions which is taken by the TRAI or the dispute appellate tribunals will be purely from the law as well as legal perspectives, and it will not be influenced by any kind of political or external pressures because of its separation from the political executives. And it has the ability to nurture as well as develop new policies according to the changing trends of telecommunication industry, and it has ensured that free and fair market is possible in the country after 1990s. So what is the criticism mainly being placed on it is acting as fourth leg or the separate executives or the separate executive body, so that there has been lack of coordination between the real political executives as well as this executive body, that is TRAI. And then currently there has been increased political interference is also taking place, and then the corruption. So these are all the criticism being placed against the regulatory authority. So this is what the complete analysis in relation to the TRAI is about. So what needed to be studied further is we should know about what does the tribunal is, and what are all the constitutional provisions being provided for the tribunal. Second is we should know about the 5G services. Similarly, we should also know about what are all the other regulatory bodies that was created in tune with liberalization, privatization, globalization. So these are all the important areas which we need to be aware of. With oil at $90, refining margin of India players to stay at 9 to 10 per barrel. So this is what the news is related to. So right now the international oil price is rising, and the margin, the profit margin of the refineries is closing. So and right now it is staying at 9 to 10 per barrel. But on the other hand, the Russia's Ural crude oil is around $60 only. The price which is being imposed, the price cap which was imposed by the G7, so that the Russian agency does not earn profit because of the increase in the world crude oil prices. So if they are earning profit from the increased crude oil prices means these costs might be used for Russian-Ukraine war. So that is the reason why G7 has imposed the price cap on the Russia's Ural oil, and right now it has been traded at $60. So India is having a plan to diversify or further increase the Russian Ural oil. So there is a possibility that there will be an increase in the margin, refineries margin in the near future. And how the news is being related to civil service examination is, under prelims it is related to economics and social development, sustainable development, poverty inclusion, demographics as well as social sector initiatives. And then under mains it is related to Indian economy and issues relating to planning, mobilization of resource, growth, development as well as employment under GS3 economic and development paper. Okay, let's discuss about the benchmark crude oils. The Brent crude oil, it is the oil which is originated from the North Sea, and it has high API gravity value. What does this API gravity value is about is, it is American Petroleum Institute of Gravity. So it denotes the weight of the particular crude oil, and the Brent crude oil has higher weight than the West Texas Intermediate crude oil, and it has sulfur content of 0.3%, which is very higher than the sulfur content of West Texas Intermediate, and the West Texas Intermediate crude oil is produced from the US oil fields. So this is what the details in relation to major crude oil is about. And impact of the price rise in India. So what impact does it create is, it will increase the imported inflation. See, the oil is the major source or the input for most of the sectors. If the imported oil price has risen means, then correspondingly it will be having a ripple effect on other sectors, so that it will be increasing the price of the final output which is produced from the particular sector. And then there will be depreciation of rupee. As we all know, if the India depends nearly 85% of its crude oil requirement from the Gulf countries only, or through the way of import only. So if the price of the oil is increased means, then there will be increase since the oil transaction has been taking place in dollars, the demand for dollars will get increased, then correspondingly the demand for rupees will get decreased, so that the depreciation of rupee will be taking place. And there will be increased trade deficit that will be happening when the oil price has increased, and surely there will be increase in fiscal burden of government, because government needed to pay more amount to the oil producing countries to purchase the crude oils. And this is what the news is about. And OPEC, it is a body which was formed in 1960s in Baghdad by a certain handful of oil exporters. They are Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia and Venezuela. These are all the members who founded the OPEC organization in 1960 in Baghdad. And right now the 13 members are there, and each member of the organization has one vote in the decision making of the OPEC, and it is headquartered in Vienna, Austria. And right now, apart from the OPEC countries, there are certain handful of countries like Russia, US are also producing oil on their shore. So they are also wanted to form a cartelization are the group of exporter of the oil. So OPEC plus or another grouping, the extension of OPEC is formed by including the members, those who are producing as well as exporting the oils apart from the traditional oil producers as well as exporters countries. So this is what the details in relation to OPEC is about. So what we needed to study further, we should know about what is India's energy mix is about. What percentage of India's energy mix constitutes fossil as well as what percentage of India's energy mix constitutes non-fossil fuel mix, as well as we should also know about Indian refineries, their capacity, and then we should also know about the strategic reserve of India, and then we should also know about the domestic crude production status in India apart from the global import of crude oil in India. Nipah virus alert in Kerala's Kozhikode. So from the news headlines itself we could able to know that the Nipah virus alert has been given in Kerala's Kozhikode. Why the alert has been given is following the death of two people in Kozhikode. It is assumed that it is not confirmed yet. It is assumed that those two people might have died because of the suspected Nipah virus. So that the government has alerted the district administration to take the necessary precautions. So this is what the news is about. How the news is being related to UPSC civil service examination is under prelims it is being related to general science. Similarly under mains it is related to awareness in the field of IT, space, computers, robotics, nanotechnology, biotechnology and issues relating to IPRs, which comes under GS paper 3 science and technology. So this is what the news is about. Let's have a look into the details of the news. Okay, first we will look into what does the virus itself means. It is the non-cellular organisms whose lives depend on the host cell. So they could not able to thrive on themselves. So they need a host cell to develop as well as thrive. And they are neither living as well as non-living creatures. Why? Because they have the characteristics of both living as well as non-living creatures. Since virus will be developing in the host, they develop with the help of host cells, they could not be created in the artificial environment or the laboratory. And let's get into what is the Nipah virus is about. It is human cause which ranges from the symptoms of the Nipah virus ranges from asymptomatic infection to acute respiratory infection. The fatality, the death rate of the Nipah virus is 40 to 70% of people have died in the case of Nipah virus, and the range varies depending upon the intensity, geography, the immunity of the people, those who are present in the region. These are all the conditions that varies the percentage. And how it will be transmitted from one person to another person or to humans is it will be first transmitted from animal to human and then from human to human or sometimes from contaminated foods to human. So these are all the cycles where the Nipah virus will get transmitted. and the initial transmission will take right now has taken place from the fruit bats. They are the natural host. So right now there is no treatment or vaccine has been available specifically for Nipah virus. A general supportive care is provided for the Nipah virus patients right now. So this is what the news in relation to details in relation to Nipah virus is about. Okay, what are the measures needed to be taken to prevent this kind of virus spread is, first we needed to create awareness among the people or educate the people what are all the precautionary measures they needed to take so that they won't get attacked, they won't get the Nipah virus from the contaminated food or other animals which is the natural reservoirs or the host of the Nipah virus. And there need to be reduction in the bats access to the plants, and then the humans needed to wear some protective mechanism in the form of gloves, masks, so that whenever they are interacting with other persons or whenever they are in the free environment, they won't get affected by this virus. So these are all the preventive measures which needed to be taken to prevent the spread of the virus. And also what the WHO has said, that there need to be increase in the research and development in relation to development of vaccine for Nipah virus. This is what the recommendation being given by the WHO. So what are all the past outbreaks that has happened in relation to Nipah viruses? In 1999, the first outbreak took place in Malaysia. The first instance of the Nipah virus was detected from the pig. Secondly, in 2001, the outbreak has happened in Bangladesh. It also provided more fatalities to the human beings. So these are all the important analysis as well as factual part in relation to the news. And then what needed to be studied further is, we should know about what is bacteria and what is fungi and what is protozoans. Similarly, we should also know about World Health Organization, its structure, function, as well as the projects or programs being implemented by the World Health Organization. And then we should know about COVID-19 as well as the vaccines being produced to prevent or reduce the spread of COVID-19 in India and also across the world. So these are all the other things which we needed to be aware of. Right place and time. So this is the news related to inclusion of African Union in G20 as the 21st member. And what it signals is, right now the G20 is becoming more inclusive by including the African Union in it. And then it also symbolizes that G20 has recognized the needs as well as the aspiration of global south, because nearly half of the countries, half of the developing as well as poor countries belongs to south of African continent only. So by recognizing them, G20 is signaling that it is going oriented towards more inclusive as well as recognizing the global south's need. So this is what the details of the news is about. How the news is related to examination is, under prelims it is related to current events of national as well as international importance. Similarly, under mains paper 2 international relation, it is related to bilateral, regional as well as global groupings and agreements, and which affects the India's interest. Okay, let's have a look into the Africa, the potential of Africa. Africa has the potential to contribute to the global growth. Why? Because it has nearly 30 percentage of global's mineral resources, and then it could able to produce 12 percentage of world's oil requirement and also 8 percentage of world natural gas requirements, and it has the young workforce, and they have more number of space to develop themselves. Why? Because nearly 70 percentage of the population in the Africa is dependent mainly on agriculture for their livelihood, and these people needed to get adapted to their different kinds of technology which will increase their efficiency in terms of productivity and also transform major chunk of people from primary sector to secondary as well as tertiary sector, so that they have the enough potential to do it, and also they have the more number of scope to do it. So if they have access to credit as well as the technology and also the information or the required infrastructure, if they have access to these kind of things, means surely they could able to transform themselves from one of the dominant force in the global countries. So by right now, by making them one of the members of G20 is the step in that direction. What the Action Council of the G20, that is the business Action Council, is a council of the Business 20 working group under G20. What they have recommended is there need to be increase in the positive human capital of the African continent. So human capital means there need to be increased in education, skill development of the youths of the Africas, and also the health sectors across the African continents needed to be strengthened, so that the healthy as well as educated skilled young workforce could be able to contribute not only for the African growth but also for the global growth. And then increasing the productivity in agriculture. As I said, nearly 70% of the people have been involved in the agriculture. By increasing their productivity, they could be able to fetch more number of outputs with less number of input, so that they could be able to earn more, so in which in turn will increase their per capita income. And then right now the manufacturing as well as tertiary sector in the African continent is very weak, so there need to be increase in the productivity of agri sector, and there need to be shifting of the workforce by reskilling as well as upskilling them, and then re-employing them in the manufacturing sector should be taking place. And this manufacturing sectors should also be in tune with the global climate needs. And then trade facilitation through technologies will enable them to have access to important technologies that will make them to transform into one of the dominant force in the country across the world. So these are the recommendation was given by the B20. Okay, let's have a look into the India's Africa's relationship. India-Africa shares history, cultural, economic as well as political relation way long back, and then nearly 3 million India's diaspora are living in the African continent, and India right now has a trade of 70 billion with African continent, and Indian soldiers have been employed as peacekeeping force in the major conflict driven countries of the African continent, so that the peace is prevailed in those countries. And India is collaborating with Africa's major oil producing countries of the Africas positively by providing them with trade related incentives as well as benefits. And then India is right now heavily investing in Africa in the form of soft policy nature. But in the case of China is using its hard policy to have a hold in the Africa. So right now India is implementing this project or schemes or programs or investment in the form of soft policy. What does this soft policy is? Developing the human capital, developing the health, education and other infrastructures, which is required for the ease of living of the common citizen in the African continents. So what are the challenges being between the India and Africa is the China's interference. China is also having an interest in African continent. It is acting as a major hindrance for India's African relationship. And then limited resource. Similarly, investment concerns. Right now, India is promising more, but it is underperforming in most of the promises, the investment promises made by India. And then slow delivery of commitment. As I said, because of the slow delivery of commitment, the investment concerns are higher in the African countries, and also more number of conflict is also taking place in the Sahel and other African region, so that our Indian investors are hesitating to invest in the African continent. And then lack of vision in the relationship is also hindering the path towards the relationship. Recommendations. So what needed to be done to overcome this kind of challenges? There need to be periodic leaders summit. Similarly, there need to be new annual strategic dialogues should be taking place. And then there need to be increase in the collaboration of defense areas. Similarly, there need to be setting of African studies. So it might be acting as think tank to generate ideas to develop the Indian-African relationship. And also there need to be enhancement in the science and tech cooperations. So these are all the way forward which India could do to enhance the relationship with Africa or to overcome the challenges being forced between the relationship. So what need to be studied further is we should know about the African Union, the structure, members, and what are all the important programs being implemented by it. And also we should also know about what is NAM and what is the Global South, the policy which is followed by India in the global arena. And what is the difference between NAM and Global South, and why India wanted to lead the Global South. And third is we should know about African map. Similarly, we should also know about these organizations. So these are all the other areas which we needed to be aware of. Okay, let's have a look into one prelims question. So I want those students, those who are watching the current affairs session online, please do comment the option point for the question which you will be seeing right now. So this is the question today. So I want those students, those who are watching the question current affairs session online, please do comment the option point for the question which you are seeing right now on the board. So that's all for today's news. Thank you.